Thank you very much. This has really been an eye-opener for me. As a person who's been in safety I've been in OSHA for 32 years, we're in the same boat as you are. We have folks, our inspectors have a fleet. We have a government fleet of vehicles that go out and drive, and probably the most risky part of their job is not inspecting your workplaces. It's really getting to the workplaces. And there is a lot of things that we think are important to improve a safety and health program. And I think one of the things that the government has not done, or OSHA specifically, is we haven't probably focused enough on vehicle safety, and we have very few regulations that specifically talk about vehicle safety. But in Colorado, over the years, I would say 30% of the fatalities that occur are vehicle related. Just this year, and I mean vehicles, not just trucks, but people being struck by vehicles in work zones. We had a case at a meatpacking plant where a worker got out off his fork truck and was struck by a semi in the yard area. About a month ago or 2 months ago, we had a worker at a park service using a motorcycle to go from point A to B on a trail, and the worker was distracted for some reason and went over the cliff and ended up dying. The Park Service discontinued the use of motor vehicles on trails, but once again, fatality had to occur to prevent that. So this is an area where we haven't had a lot of enforcement and not a lot of regulations, but we have a very proactive administration. The President of the United States passed an executive order last year prohibiting federal employees from texting during driving. Additionally, Secretary Solis, the Secretary of Labor, and Secretary of Transportation, LaHood, worked together to focus on distracted driving. And as a result, on October 4th, the Assistant Secretary for OSHA, David Michaels, put out a letter to employers, and this is an open letter to employers to implement procedures to prevent employees from texting, and what we're going to focus on at the moment is really texting while they're driving. And what the whole goal is to reduce occupational fatalities and injuries and illnesses when people are driving. And I think what's real interesting is this is an area that OSHA really has not had a lot of involvement, especially enforcement. We have a website, and our website is on our homepage, and I encourage everybody, I'm only going to spend about 10 minutes talking, so I encourage everybody to go to our website and look at the different resources that are out there. One of the things that's going to be there is the distraction.gov website. We're going to have an area that talks about distracted driving in young workers, research, documents, how to have a model policy for driving, specifically for texting. And then finally, which I thought was very interesting, is we have a worker rights part of it. And one of the things that this particular letter talks about from the Assistant Secretary is to encourage employees that have jobs that require them to text. For instance, let's say that I'm a pizza delivery driver and it's Herbie's Pizza, and each time that you get done delivering a pizza, I require the employee to jump in his car immediately and text me to make sure the pizza was delivered on time. And that's a condition of his job, to make sure that I want to make sure that he gets to the next house as quickly as possible. An example of that if that was occurring, OSHA would take a look at that situation and potentially issue a citation. And I think one of the things that this particular initiative really is focusing on: education, training, and that's really what we want to focus on. But I know there's a lot of folks that probably have been inspected by OSHA, and we do have what we call the general duty clause. We have no specific regulations on texting during driving, but for us to prove a general duty clause, and that's part of the act, it's the employer's responsibility to furnish a safe and healthful workplace free from recognized hazards. And our burden if we issued a citation, for instance, they'd have to be exposed to a hazard. And the hazard would be is someone driving a vehicle, texting, or being distracted. Okay, that would be we have to prove a hazard. The next thing we have to prove is that the hazard is recognized. And the hazard is being recognized by, all the speakers did an outstanding job of explaining how the hazard is recognized. Companies have programs. And it doesn't mean that the particular employer has to recognize the hazard. It means that the industry, or it's reasonable to believe that the industry or the hazard is recognized by the industry. And obviously, letters, websites, litigation, company safety programs, all those things play a role in recognizing that driving and texting at the same time is a hazard, specifically if you require it as part of the job. And that's really the key. There has to be a connection between the job and texting. The next thing that has to be covered under a 5A1 is that it can cause death or serious harm. And clearly that if individual is driving a vehicle, and Dan Kaplis did an excellent job of explaining how the vehicle can be very dangerous, that's the next thing that we have to prove, that serious harm can occur. And then one of the things that always is a problem in OSHA issuing 5A1 citations, it's one of the top 10 cited issues because it's whenever OSHA doesn't have a standard, we use what we call the general duty clause. And in that particular case is abatement. And feasible abatement in this particular case is developing a procedure, a policy, and some type of process to prohibit people from texting when they're driving. So the initiative that we're going to be dealing with is kind of a multi-pronged approach. And one of the things we're going to do is an education campaign. And any of you, this seminar or symposium is outstanding. This is the kind of thing that we would, if you need speakers or you would like to help us get the word out, we would be very interested in working with any group to work together to get out the whole issue of texting while driving or other distractions. And I think that's the key in the letter that was sent out by the Assistant Secretary is texting is what we're looking at first, and then focus on probably other distractions as we move forward. Once again, the OSHA website is going to be important in this and really showcasing model employer programs. If you feel as though you have a model program, you'd like to share it with us, we'd love to get that information and share it with other employers. OSHA has many alliances, and I know we have an alliance and a partnership with the Associated General Contractors. We're going to use those alliances to put out the word in this area for a part of our campaign. We have an alliance with the Colorado Safety Association, which is an affiliate of the National Safety Council. And the National Safety Council has done an outstanding job of communicating safe driving, and that's really been kind of the leader in the top organization leading driving safety. All those groups, we're going to work together to try to communicate the information. I think what's real important is most of the folks here are probably from larger corporations. I think one of the things that OSHA continues to have a problem with is communicating to smaller employers. You know, small employers and 50 or less employers. OSHA inspects, I would say in Colorado, 95% of our inspections are probably with employers less than 20 people. And the reason why we inspect those folks are those are the folks where fatalities occur, where accidents occur. So we're trying to develop processes and procedures, try to communicate about the issue of distracted driving if that's part of their particular business. Another area that we're going to reach out to is youth, and OSHA has been spending over the last 4 years, 5 years, we've really spent a lot of time. We have 2 people today at a youth conference where we're educating youth about safety and health, and I think that's the future of our workforce is well-educated, aware, smart workers out there, and if we can educate them early about dangers of distracted driving, I think when those workers enter your workforce, you're going to have a better workforce. And then once again, the other part of this program is really focusing on educating workers about their rights. And that's always been, it's a major part of the administration, is to educate workers about their rights, which I'm very interested in how we basically rolled this campaign out. We are really entering an area where there's a lot of uncharted territory here with distracted driving, specifically texting, but we have done many citations or many investigations where distracted driving. We did a fatality about 2 years ago where a dump truck was backing up on a construction site, and the driver was actually watching television and ran over the worker. We weren't able to issue a citation against the driver because it was an independent, there wasn't an employee-employee relationship because it was an independent trucker, but we did issue a citation to the general contractor because of the issue of actually knowledge of seeing a television set in a semi clearly was not a very safe process on that particular construction site. So that's, right at my time here. So any questions about the process or the campaign or any ideas of how OSHA could improve communication to the public about, obviously in Colorado, it's against the law to text, but I don't know how that's exactly being enforced and how many tickets have been issued in that area. It's a new area for OSHA, and I think it's very interesting that we're addressing the issue of distracted driving. I think that it's a classic public health, public safety issue in this country, and I think that I think the consequences, like all the speakers did an outstanding job of explaining their programs and how important a driver safety program is. And one of the regulations that probably will come out in the next 2 years probably will be there is no specific requirement to have a safety program in general industry, and be honest with you, in construction. And one of the standards that's on the top priority of regulations right now is a regulation to require employers to have a comprehensive safety and health program. It's kind of find and fix. Basically, you look at your workplace, you do an evaluation, and if you see a hazard, you come up with a method to correct it and to take care of it, instead of a very specific regulation saying put a guard on the belt and pulley. This is more of a programmatic type approach to improve safety and health. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come here today, and I think this has been an outstanding symposium, and I've learned an amazing amount to hopefully improve our fleet safety for as taxpayers, to ensure that our folks who are federal employees drive safely when they're doing inspection activity. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.